Hey guys, today is May the 5th and I'm going to be doing another update. There are some specific things I want to address. Oh my goodness, that is not good. I am really glad I was standing out here because my door just came flying open. Wow, you guys know that I've been keeping a little lock on it so that it can't do that. Because one night I came out here and found it open. I sure hope everyone's still in here. I think everyone is. I think it had just come open just then. Sure is a good thing I was standing out here. I'll do this for now. I am going to step in there and show you all some stuff, so I'm not going to lock it right this moment. So, also I noticed that my sign is kind of broken. This was burned in, it burned into the wood. My cousin did it for me. I may try and refurbish it at the moment. It's not doing so well. It's made from an oak door cabinet. I've also just noticed my landing board. I mean, this is totally to be expected that it's drooping down because I didn't put anything to support it. But it's actually been like that for at least half a year now, and it stayed completely straight. And it didn't start sagging until it warmed up and started getting muggy out here and stuff. Anyways, so I'll let the young birds out. Not Charles, because Charles doesn't really fly. So, I already took the liberty of moving Elvis, but I actually think I'm going to move Elvis back down there because I'm not really using him as a breeder. So it is somewhat windy today, which is not something I'm particularly fond of, but I've not had any problems with it in the past personally. I just try to avoid flying in the wind because other people have had problems with it. I've only really had problems with it with rollers. And again, that one right there. Oh, no, don't go back in yet. And there they are. So obviously not going to be a big deal trying to get these guys trap trained. Let me, if I can reach it. There we go. That way they can't get back in. Come on, you gotta fly. It's time to fly. So I had asked, it was a comment on one of my, I guess it was my last video. Someone asked how to get pigeons to fly because they were having trouble with it themselves. And I don't recall their username, but I'll show you. They just about came and landed. But first you have to think about why pigeons fly. Of course, they don't migrate, so they just stay at home year-round. And you know, you gotta think, well, why do they bother to fly at all then? They have to go find food and water. So, of course, I would not at all recommend taking water away from them. You should always have water available at all times. But and I am going to have to make them fly because they've come down attracted by the other young birds. But anyway, so they like to fly for food. So a full pigeon is not going to want to fly any more than you're going to want to run after you eat a big bowl of soup. So here's what I was getting. So you want to fly them when they're hungry. They're not going to want to fly when they're really full. And you're not going to want to try and fly them alone. I've seen where several people have done that. You see there goes several of them taking off because they do want to fly. There goes some more. I'm surprised that they haven't started to go off with them. But they like to fly in a flock, of course. Pigeons flock, so you're not going to want to fly them on their own. And then how they're raised makes a huge difference. Of course, flying is not easy. It actually is a bit of work. I mean, they're having to, it's like they're doing, actually some scientists did some research on it and actually found a way to measure how much force is being pushed down when the birds flap their wings, and it came out to be twice their body weight. So it's like if you had someone your same weight laying on your back and then you did push-ups. Well, not even push-ups. It's like if you had two bars out beside you and you were laying down holding onto those bars and you had to push yourself up into the air over and over again really fast. Obviously, I mean, they're flapping their wings pretty fast, so it's a lot of work. and that was a very long version of that, but it's a lot of work. So they need to start basically weight training at a young age so they can be strong. So I am actually going to make them fly now. As for how you make them fly, and that's actually a little bit complicated. See, I'm using this net to scare them off, and I clap too. Usually clapping is all that's necessary, and the clap just becomes a signal to fly. Just like you tell your dog to come when you want it to come, and you tell your dog to sit when you want it to sit, and it kind of works the same way. But because they quickly learn not to fear the clap, it's just a symbol for, it just means to fly. It's just a command. Sorry, trying to get my net stretched out here while I'm talking to y'all. Trying to get this roller to fly. See, I could just about catch him. I could probably catch him with this in the air if I wanted to. Of course, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, so, but anyways, lost my train of thought. I had a huge problem with getting birds to fly when I first started keeping them. And again, you can see these keep coming back. They'll start flying more and more though. They're just weak right now. They'll get stronger. But, yeah, so they like to fly in a flock. They fly a lot better when they're hungry. Of course, you don't want to let full pigeons out of the loft anyways, because you don't want them to... See, there they go. Now they're all joining the flock, except this one roller, which is the only roller out here. Fly! Oh well, it doesn't want to fly. And I don't need to make it fly because it's not racing, so I'm just going to let it back into the loft. Because I don't need it to fly. But anyways, so as for making them fly, I was shooing them off with the flag there, which mine happens to be a net. Like this kildee's coming in to, I don't know what the kildee's problem is. It seems bothered by the pigeons. You can see with just those two extra racing homers, the flock looks even bigger now. I'm getting pretty excited about what it's going to look like when I'm flying all my birds. Training. Sorry, I keep rabbit trailing myself. But anyways, so you can't really make them fly. I mean, you can make them take flight and fly over to another building. I mean, I could make them get off this roof of this house, or the roof of our shed, and land on the house or my neighbor's house or a tree, but you cannot make them fly around. And trust me, I can atone to that. I wish I could remember who it was. See, I don't want to let them go into the trap. So, I wish I could remember who it was that was telling me about the problem they were having. Their problem was they had rollers that didn't want to fly. Those of you that have kept up with my YouTube channel will probably remember I started out with just 4 rollers, and my dad had bought them for to train our dog to fetch doves, dead doves that we'd shot. So, and I don't agree with that, but that's what he had bought them for. And so we clipped their wings, and so they weren't able to fly around, and so their muscles stayed real weak. I don't know if they ever flew before we bought them. I don't think they did. It was kind of sad, but they had their muscles were real weak, and so of course flying was a challenging thing for them. Eventually their feathers grew back in, and I had learned enough at that point to that I had trap trained them and was very eager to fly them. But there were only 4, and like I just said, pigeons prefer to fly in a flock. They don't like to fly by themselves very much, and 4 is really not much of a flock. So that, combined with just the fact that they were really weak, made it very hard to get them to fly. And I wound up getting more pigeons. I actually got 2 white racing homers, but they had not actually been trained and flown. They were just bred as white pigeons, and so they didn't want to fly either. So it was pretty much the same story. So it didn't really help me much, other than I had a couple more pigeons. And to be honest, I never really got those 2 white pigeons flying well, And I never got... Sorry, I'm not sure when the video cut out. I wasn't paying any attention. My White King, the one that I dyed different colors for Easter, got out of the little cage he was in. It actually has 2 doors, and I didn't realize one of them was still open. I think I left the pitcher for their food in the breeding loft. Yep, here it is. And we will come in here in just a little bit. I've got some stuff to explain about that. So, don't want to let the pigeons see the pitcher. But, anyway, so I was talking about making them fly. I was telling y'all about my first pigeons were 4 rollers that we had bought to train our dog to retrieve doves that we had shot. We have a Labrador Retriever, which I don't agree with that. It's very dangerous for them. Easy for them to come back bloody. I mean, one did come back a little bloody. I mean, it's easy for them the dog to break their neck, or a wing, or a leg, or whatever, puncture them. But anyways, so I don't support that. But anyway, so eventually their feathers grew back in, and by that point I had learned a lot about pigeons, and trap trained them, and was ready to get them flying. So it's about time to put them away. But anyways, so they were really weak, and I wound up getting 2 white racing homers, but they had just been bred for their color and for being white, and they weren't flown or anything. So they actually were no better than the rollers as far as wanting to fly. I mean, sure, they wanted to, and they would fly just a little bit, but not very much because it was difficult. Just like I enjoy walking, hiking, running, but if you're not very strong, then it's hard and it becomes less fun. But eventually I did get most of them flying, and once they got stronger, of course they enjoyed flying and did it quite often, quite well. But you just have to put in a lot of effort. I was chasing them all around with this net. I had tennis balls I would throw at them, volleyballs, the really big rubber inflated balls that you can buy at Walmart all the time for like $5. I mean, I was throwing everything I had at them, and eventually I did get most of them flying, and the 2 of them that I still have do fly pretty well, even though they had a really rough start. I'm going to usher these guys on. I am going to let them back into the loft and feed them now, but I don't want to reward them for landing, so I want them to be flying when I call them down. So there's a little tip for you guys. I can tell that my pigeons are getting tired because they're wanting to land. Oh, there's still one up there. So is Elvis. But go on. See, they learn not to fear the net, but you can usually still get them to go on. But anyway, so I can tell they're getting tired. They're coming down close to the loft, looking like they want to land. But I don't want to reward them for landing. I'm going to go ahead and call them in. That is beautiful to watch them flying around. Sorry, I'm trying to reach way up here and do this. And see, they're not wanting to come down. Part of it is the wind, but this guy right here, this roller will help. And just like that. So, right in they should go. And that is why I like having droppers. Y'all see what a big impact that made, just tossing that roller up on the loft. Oh, Charles, you probably want to go in there and eat too, don't you? Come on, bud. Nope, don't go into the loft. Go up on top of the loft. Let's go eat. At the moment, it seems that Charles is going to be a dropper, but that's fine. you know, whatever. Wish that he was stronger and that I was going to be able to race him. I still don't know what's up with him. His mom was not a very good pigeon either, as far as strength. Not a very good racing homer, but or isn't. But anyways, so sorry, I've been trying to tell you all about this, but I've been watching them fly too, and so I've been getting rabbit trailed just watching them. But so it's hard to get them to fly if they don't start out flying from an early age. And eventually all four, not all four, one of them disappeared, probably a hawk got it, but 3 of those original 4 rollers plus several other birds eventually started landing in a tall pine tree that was right there. I mean, it's still over there, but it's not standing up anymore. It's that big log down there, but it stretched up even higher than that right there. So it was a big tall pine tree. It was probably about level with the tops of those trees. Of course, those trees were uphill. This one was downhill, so it was pretty tall. But they would go and land on the top of that pine tree. The reason being that I made a mistake of flying my rollers with my homers because I didn't have very many pigeons at all at that time. And like I said, they need to be in a flock in order to really fly well. And being in a flock did help. But the racing homers are a lot faster and like to fly lower, whereas the rollers are slower, so they were having a hard time keeping up. Plus the rollers need to be higher because they roll, and so they fall. And because they stayed low to fly with the racing homers, because the racing homers are stubborn and going to do whatever they want, the rollers came and flew lower. They would usually stay right above and behind the flock of racing homers. They wouldn't really mix. And then they would just fly as hard as they could, try and keep up, but they would roll, and multiple times they would roll. The racing homers like to fly right at or just below the treetop level here, and then go just up or keep flying, you know, pretty much straight, and go right over the trees, kind of in between these gaps here. They would go through there, and the rollers would roll and then go crashing through the trees. Now pigeons, like I've mentioned before, they don't land typically perch on branches and things. They like a flat surface, and so pigeons won't normally teach themselves to land in trees very easily. It's not usually a big problem, but the rollers, because they were rolling and crashing into the trees, and then when they would kind of regain their balance, they'd kind of be, you know, sitting on a limb up there. And through that, they learn to land in trees. And I'm hoping that when I finally start flying my rollers again, having so many of them wanting to fly and that have never landed in trees before will overcome the 2 pigeons roller pigeons I still have that had learned to do that. I only have 2 of them now. But and because the rollers were doing that, they actually taught the racing homers to do that. 2 of the old birds I've gotten here, that ash red cock there and his mate, which is a blue check hen, she's on the other side. Oh no, she's right here. That one right there. They learned to land in the trees too, and they weren't as bad about it, and it was easier to move them on. But the rollers would just get stuck up there. I mean, they weren't literally stuck, but they just wouldn't budge. I had one almost get killed by a hawk once because it came and attacked them in those trees. We've got this a pine stand just on the other side, and so the height of the tree is just beyond this row is, and you can kind of see, it kind of goes right across through there. It's just a little less than half the height of these trees, and then there's tall trees a ways back that way again, and the hawk was just sitting in the trees back that way watched them land and was watching everything that was going on. He sees back flipping pigeons with white on them. He assumes they're injured, and that's why they won't leave the tree. He came flying straight over this pine stand, and he just about nailed one of them. Actually, it was the older indigo cock that I've got in my breeding loft, and I'll go ahead and step in here and show y'all. It was him and his mate was eventually carried off by a hawk, but they caught her in flight. So that pigeon right there was one of the ones that almost got nailed by a hawk when that happened. Didn't realize how dark it was in here. I would have brought a light out here or something. But so anyways, and I was even shooting arrows at them with a bow I've had since I was younger, kind of a toy bow. And so I was shooting arrows up over their heads, just trying to get them to move, and they wouldn't. Pigeons learn that they don't actually have to fear the stuff you throw at them or wave at them. But so we'll show you what's going on in here. I'm unfortunately it's kind of dark. Hopefully you can see. Alright, sorry if the video just cut out. So I've still got this older pair of rollers right here. The door won't open up all the way. I'll sit it this one right here so you can see it. So this one, I'm still not sure what it's going to be. It might be ash red spread. And then I've got this other one that's black. So that's 3 young rollers so far, because I've still got that brown one out there in the flying loft, which is actually their sibling. And then they're sitting on eggs, their parents are. So then I've got these 2 babies that were the older indigo cock. And just in case the video cut out before I said it, he was one of the ones that almost got killed by a hawk sitting in the trees out there. But he didn't, obviously, stand right there. His mate eventually did. But so now he's paired up to this ash red Satinet, and here are their babies. I'll sit them over here so we can see them better. Some scaredy pigeons over there. Anyways, so you can see them a little better in the light now. This one's a blue check with the indigo, which makes the dark coloring of that rusty reddish color. And then this one, I think, is an indigo spread. Yeah, you can see that faint tail bar there. It's not really a tail bar, but at the same time it kind of is. I believe this is a blue. This is a blue spread indigo. So that means that both of these are hens, unless this is an ash red, and I don't believe it is. If it is, then it's a cock, but I think it's blue. So this one's definitely a, I don't know, because this tail, that's about the same color as his dad's tail. I mean, his dad right here is, you know, an indigo spread. Sit him up here where y'all can see him, side by side comparison, and he is darker than this one right here. So I don't know, maybe this one is ash red. If so, it'll be a cock. Again, we know that because it was a sex-link mating, which I won't go over because I don't have time. But if you're interested in that, I made a video on sex-link breeding titled, I can't remember if I called it sex-link breeding or sex linkage in pigeons, one or the other. So then I got this pair of racing homers up here. They're both going to be blue something, probably blue checks. And their parents are right there. That's the hen, that's the cock. And several people have asked how to tell them apart. There's not any surefire way other than watching them, and if it lays an egg, it's a hen, and if it doesn't, it's a cock. But mostly you tell by behavior. But they do actually look a little bit different. You can see she does not have, her eye looks like it's set higher on her head. Her head is kind of flatter, and there's just less space between the top of her skull and her eye, whereas this one has more of, we would call it a crown. And eventually you just learn what a masculine pigeon looks like. This one pigeon looks masculine, and this one looks feminine, and in this case it does work out. That is a cock and that's a hen, and that will usually work, but not always. I think that's the hen right there. No, it's the cock. I messed up on that one. Seeing them side by side, I would know. See, there's the hen over there. But anyways, so their nest is gone. Obvious, there's a reason for that. So that pair, I was thinking I wanted to let them breed one more time, but not anymore, because I don't want very many of the crossbreeds. They're for a breeding project, which is kind of fun and interesting. And I do want to make frill stencil rollers eventually, but I only have so much space and so much money for food, and I want rollers more than I want the crossbreeds because I want to be able to watch them fly. So I was thinking that I was going to let them breed in this nest box because they had taken an interest in it, but when I got home today, they had actually laid another egg. I don't know if y'all noticed, but she's sitting on an egg in there now. They kicked the babies out of the nest and laid an egg in there. Of course, they're still feeding the babies and everything. They're still there in the nest box. But anyway, so, and this hen, the Satinet hen, and her mate, which is right behind me right there, I think he might just be an ash red T-check, but he's a piebald roller. They were in this nest together, and I do not want to breed them a second time. So I closed this nest box so they can't get in there to lay an egg. And then, so that they didn't do the same thing they did and just kick the babies out of the nest and lay an egg in it, I went ahead and just took away their nest. They're almost certainly not gonna try and lay an egg just on this hard nest box. And there is stuff in here they could use to build a nest. There's pine needles on the floor that have fallen down there. Hopefully they don't. I'm going to discourage breeding. Once these babies get just about old enough to wean, I'm going to take the hen away, and then I'm going to let the cock continue to feed the babies, because he will continue to feed them for a while after that. And but after they're eating and drinking on their own, I'll take the mom away. Their father will still continue to feed them. The cock actually plays the major role in their lives towards the older part of their life, after they're starting to leave the nest box. He's the one that shows them the ropes, so to speak, and feeds them a little more. So I'll take her away, and what I'm going to do is no, you know what, I got myself mixed up. I'm going to take her mate away, the cock, which is still fine, and I'm going to, after a while, introduce the Satinet cock I have to her and pair them up, possibly in this nest box right here. I still need to put doors on this one. I really need to put doors on all of them. I need to make doors for all of them, for that matter. But then I'm actually planning on breeding Spot, which is my older indigo piebald roller there, to Victoria, which is the blue check roller in there. And the main reason for that being, I want some indigo rollers that don't have spread, because I want some of those indigo bars and indigo checks and all that. I like the look of that. So I do want to do that. So actually, they just laid their egg. They laid theirs about a week ago. So their babies are going to be about a week ahead. And once their babies get old enough, I'm going to remove her mate, Hershey's, which is that pigeon right there. Remove him. And then after theirs are old enough, remove her. And then put Spot, after a couple of days of her being gone, put Spot in here with them to get them to breed. And I'm not sure if I want to switch anyone else. I don't think I do, not right now. I think that's the only pair I'm really going to be switching up. I mean, I'm switching them up too, and because I want to breed out some Satinets. Because I have a feeling that these crosses are not going to be usable as droppers, because they're going to want to fly, I think, because them being half roller, which is a reforming breed and likes to fly, they're probably going to want to fly too. So, April, my younger indigo spread cock, Andalusian indigo, paired to this homozygous ash red, homozygous grizzle ash red hen right there. Unfortunately, one of their babies did die. I found it dead in the nest today, but they are first-time parents. Some of them always die, so it's sad, but I'm not too torn up about it. And then this is their surviving baby so far, which you can see is going to be mostly white, it looks like. It's probably going to be grizzle. Alright. It's probably going to be grizzle, but it's also probably... April has more piebald on him than either his dad or his mom did. His mom actually did not have a piebald head. She had a couple of dark tail feathers, and his dad has a lot of dark tail feathers, and neither one of them had as much white on their wings. April's wings, if he'll let me show y'all, are actually... Oh, come here. I'm trying to figure out how I can show y'all, because he's not wanting to let me. But his wings are actually more than half white. Alright, he's not really going to let me. But you can see a little bit of white right here, which you can't see on some of the others, like her. She has... Well, she's got a little more white too, but anyway, so he has more piebald than his parents, long story short. So I am honestly not surprised if him being paired up to this hen, which also has piebald. That's why the ends of that's why her flight feathers and tail feathers are completely white with no pigment whatsoever, is because she also has the white piebald genes. So it may spread even more, and I am expecting to produce probably a predominantly white pigeon. I could tell by looking at it that the baby that died was going to be indigo, but unfortunately it died. And their baby still seems to be fine. It was out of the nest earlier over here. Let me show you. I have to do that or my camera shuts off after 10 minutes. But anyways, you can see it's got some of the piebald. It's got a few white flight feathers. Unfortunately, the tiger grizzle doesn't really seem to be carrying over, maybe in their next round of babies, but it should roll well, so that's good. And then down here, I still got this blue bar and this black racing homer, which obviously their nest box needs to be scraped out. Pretty messy looking. I took their nest away because it was one that their parents had built that was very large and was staying very wet, which is not good for them. Easy for them to get sick. But of course I do want their parents to breed again as soon as possible, as I'm kind of in a race against time to get enough young birds bred out to race with. So I do have this nest right here, so it's literally just a few inches from them. There's just this in between. So hopefully their parents will start to make a nest. To be honest, they've been staying over there a lot. They may nest underneath that nest box. I'm really not sure what their plan is, but they'll probably lay again soon. I hope they do. Oh, I almost forgot. So this pair of racing homers that are both grizzle are very light colored. So this is the blue, and its mother was certainly not this white. This is their mom right there, this blue grizzle hen right here. And you can see she's real pretty looking, but she was not this light colored as a baby. So I'm thinking it's going to be even a little lighter than her. I don't think it's not homozygous grizzle, because it can't. It would have to get grizzle from both its mom and its dad in order to be homozygous, and its dad obviously has no grizzle. And then the ash red, again, looks almost solid white. I think it's probably going to be a grizzle bar, whereas I think its sibling over there in the flying loft was a T-check. And it's beautiful, and I love it. It's great to look at, but white, light-colored birds are the first ones that hawks pick off. So, at the same time, I hate it to see that that bird is so light-colored. I probably will start doing my matings to where I refrain from producing ash red grizzles because of this happening, and as well as try not to produce homozygous grizzles, because I don't want them to be so light. Because I just don't want them to be picked off, because they are going into the wild where they're going to have to face natural predators, and I don't really want to send them off with a disadvantage already. But we'll see how well they do this year. There are plenty of white pigeons, of solid white pigeons, who have won races and lived to be a very old age, so hopefully it'll all be fine. But then this pair right here, that homer, that's the cock. Hen is right there, the orange band, that blue bar. Their eggs should hatch in about a week. So I think that's pretty much it for my update. They are getting a bit longer. I've got more breeding pairs. Well, what did I do with the lock that was on here? I usually sit it right here on top of this bell of pine needles. Well, I'll find it in a moment, and I don't think I brought it in here, did it? Well, I'll find it in just a moment and make sure to lock it this time, because I could not believe that that blew open, and I'm so glad I'm out here, because several of those pairs of racing homers and a couple of those rollers, if they got out, I may never see them again. Though most of the pigeons in here are trap trained to this loft, and so far the only two that have gotten out have been trap trained to this loft. So, but thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for keeping up with my videos. Thank you for all the positive comments. Sorry I drew out explaining about flying them so long. I should probably start explaining that before, maybe. I don't know. I just hate to keep rabbit trailing myself, and y'all just, oh well. But y'all got to watch the birds fly while I talk, so hopefully you enjoyed that. But thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos. Take care, guys.